Hey guys, I'm working my way through the arcade mode on codefights.com, and right now this is Exploring the Waters number 18, palindrome rearranging. I saw a video online explaining this, walking through it. I think there's a cleaner way to do this, and it's a good opportunity to learn a really clean, easy way to make a character map, which is a good, useful skill when dealing with palindromes, but anytime you're dealing with strings and you want to figure out how many instances of a character you have, it's good to learn this skill. So I want to walk through this. So for this problem, we're given a string, and we want to figure out if we were to rearrange that string, could we make it into a palindrome? And a palindrome is like this A, B, B, A over here, where when we flip that around, it's still the same thing. But we're not actually given the character, or we're not actually given the string in that order. We need to see if we could rearrange it, like A, B, B could be made into this palindrome over here. So your first instinct might be to take this AABB and start flipping letters around, iterating over it, swapping letters, and then checking to see if it's a palindrome. And that's going to be really tricky. It's really not necessary. An easier way to go about this, we just think about what are some characteristics of a palindrome, what are some things that are always going to be true in the case of a palindrome. So let's take a palindrome like AABA, or let's make it AABAA. So we can see here, for every instance of an A, we need a corresponding A on the other side. For this A, we have one over here, another A over here. B, we have another B. That means we need an even number of instances of each character. Except in the case of in the middle, we could have one C right here. And you can see that when you flip that around, that's a palindrome. It's still going to be the same string. And it doesn't have to be one. We could have three C's in there. And if it's in the middle, you flip that around, it's still going to be a palindrome. So for our string to be a palindrome, we need an even number of instances of every character, except we can have one character that has an odd number of instances. So that's what we're going to want to check for. And so the first step to doing that, we want to create a character map, which is going to look like this. So if we have our input string ABCA, our character map down here, the keys are going to be the characters A, B, C, and then the values for those are going to be the amount of instances. So we have two instances of A this time, we have one instance of B, one instance of C. So this is what we want to create for dealing with palindromes. And anytime we want to figure out how many instances of a character in a string. So let's make our character map const char map, and we're going to start with an empty object. Then we're going to iterate over our input string with a for of loop, since we're iterating over strings. So let's say for let char of input string. And we want to reference our key pair, so we're going to say char map at char, this index notation. So that's going to refer to, if we're doing this string, char map at char, when we're passing the A in, is going to be this key right here, A, char map at A. We're going to set that value equal to what the value already is, char map at char, whatever value is already there, plus 1. So we're going to add, every time we see a character, we're going to add 1 to that. And then we just need to deal with the case where it's the first time we run into a character. The first time we run into this A here, char map at char is going to be undefined. It's not going to exist yet. So if we do this, we say or 1. So if we run into a character, if we have A and that equals 2, and we run into another A, we're going to add 1. But if we run into A for the first time, that char map at char undefined, we're going to say 1. We're going to create that key value pair at 1. So let's console log this so you can see that our char map's working. Let's get rid of this. So you can see there's our console output, and that's our character map. A, we have 2 A's, 2 B's. Let's see down here. 4 B's, 1 C, 2 A's. Great, so that's working out just fine. So now all we need to do is figure out whether or not we have an even number of characters, or we're allowed to have one instance of an odd number of characters, and that could be our characters right in the middle. So to figure that out, let's count how many times we have an odd amount of a character instance. So let's say let count, our counter variable, equals 0. And we're going to do a for in loop this time, since we're iterating over an object. And the way I like to remember that is I wish it was of loops for objects because that would make sense to me, but it's not, so I kind of use that to remember. I remember that of for arrays and strings. It's not what I want it to be, it's in for objects, if that makes sense. So let value in char map. And we're going to say if char map value. We're going to use a modulo sign here, which, if you don't know, modulo, we divide by a number and then it spits out the remainder. So it's a really easy way to check for even or odd value. If we do modulo 2 and it's an odd value, it's not going to spit out a 0. If it is an even value and we divide by 2, the remainder is going to be 0. So we're looking for our odd values right now, so we're going to say not equal to 0. So that's any time we encounter an odd value, we're going to count that. Count plus plus. And like we said before, we can only have one character instance where we have an odd number of characters. So if count is greater than 1, we're going to use a ternary expression here. Count is greater than 1, we're going to say it's false. And if it's not greater than 1, we're going to say true. And all we need to do is return this. So this is going to tell us, this is going to return whether or not we have more than one odd instance of a character, and if we don't, then we have a palindrome, and that's true. So let's run our test and see if this is working. Great, looks like everything checks out. So that's how we make a character map, and that's how we solve palindrome rearranging.